Hello, this is Darren. Just wanted to touch base with everyone a little bit before the end of today. Uh, Today is the anniversary of the well, kind of a high moment in the Cuban Revolution when on New Year's Eve the revolutionary forces made it into Havana and Bautista fled. Um, you may um, you may be familiar with this scene from Godfather Part Two that has the mob bosses cutting up the cake of Cuba to so they can share in the incredible profits there in the casino industry. You may remember from the movie that Michael Corleone barely gets out before the rebels take over the island. So, just a quick reminder of that scene back in '58 into '59 in Cuba. I wanted to jump on to talk about this real quick because today is January 1st. It's 2025. Um, we have about 20 more days of the Biden presidency. There perhaps is a slim chance that with the right amount of pressure, that Biden would remove Cuba from the state sponsor of terrorism list. Um, so I'm just getting on to ask that in any way that you can, speak to the people you know, um, make the phone calls, do whatever you need to do. I think we should, in the next 20 days, put as much pressure as possible um, on the government, on the Biden government, to take Cuba off the state sponsors of terrorism list. Um, just you know, to answer some questions about why we have, for so consistently, had an embargo on Cuba and most recently put them on the state sponsors of terror list. Just to, I don't want to run down a whole history here, but you know, even from when Cuba was in the hands of Spain, from the 1500s on, U.S. interests were heavily involved in Cuba, the slave trade, sugar, on and on and on. Just a couple things from a video that I recently saw about right before the conditions before the revolution. I will share just a couple things with you. Um, this is just talking about how U.S. companies had a lot of control over industries in Cuba before the revolution. You know, it says 1905, 6% of rural land and 90% of the tobacco industry is owned by U.S. companies. 90% of the sugar industry harvest was controlled by U.S. investors. Much of the profits from sugar, which was the main export of Cuba, went into the pockets of U.S. companies and their shareholders. By the late 1950s, U.S. controlled 90% of mines, 80% of public utilities, 50% of the railways. Um, a small percentage of people had advantage of that, and many people didn't. If you think of many Caribbean places where people talk about going and they, stay in luxurious hotels, and then right outside of, that small urban area is abject poverty. The same thing was happening in Cuba with U.S. ownership and mafia ownership and so on. Um, the last little part of the slide says, for the great majority of the population, this was a wretched existence where 93% of rural households lacked electricity, 85% lacked running water, 54% lacked an outdoor toilet, 96% lacked a refrigerator, and fewer than half of the children were enrolled in school. Estimates say that about a quarter of the population were illiterate before the revolution. Um, all this to say is there is a reason behind why the United States takes such a hostile posture toward Cuba, and it has a lot more to do with wealthy interests, business interests wanting to get control back of a place that they've had some degree of control over, and were enriching themselves off of for centuries. So again, I hope to do a few more of these to get more into the history if that's what you need. Um, Basically, the fact of the matter is that we, as people of this country, should let Cuba live the existence that it desires to live without sanctions, embargoes, and especially having them on the state sponsors of terrorist list, which includes which leads to many other debilitating factors for their economy and for their people. So, um, yeah, that's the simple message. The next 20 days, while Biden is still in office, let's put as much pressure on as we can, and I will see you soon with another update.